Today, we're doing something a little insane. We took a trip out to Catalina Island with one goal: catch lobsters at night with our bare hands. No traps, no nets, just us, the ocean, and whatever decides to crawl out in front of us. Catalina is known for crystal clear water, giant bugs, sharks, and some of the sketchiest rocks you'll ever stick your arm into. And in this video, we're going after all of it. The visibility today is unreal. Catalina, unlike Monterey that can flip from murky to crystal clear overnight, is virtually clear year-round and absolutely amazing no matter what your target species is. Now, starting off in the day, the first thing we're looking for: structure. Lobsters love edges. Anywhere the rock turns into sand, anywhere there's a crack with a roof. There may also be a moray eel lurking, and these little ledges become highways at night. Right here, along these walls, we have perfect shelves with a deep undercut, scattered rocks, and a few sand channels. If I was a lobster, this is where I'd clock in for the night shift. Catalina's shallow reefs are like a giant aquarium, and seeing what fish are active during the day actually helps for finding where lobster may be active at night. The bright orange fish you'll see in this video are Garibaldi, which are basically the security guards of the reef. If these guys are around, you know there's structure, protection, and tons of cracks where bugs hide during the day. If you look closely, you may also spot opaleye and half-moon shallow water grazers. They love surge zones, and lobsters tend to sit just behind these areas where the water calms down. Now lobsters, they leave clues, and once you learn to spot them, you start seeing them everywhere. Sometimes it's just an antenna poking out from under the rock, a molted shell, or tracks where they've been moving on their own version of a road. Unlike the classic Maine lobster with huge crushing claws, the California spiny lobster has none. No pincers, no claws, just armor plates like a medieval tank. And long antennae sharp enough to slice kelp. They live in the cracks and caves of rocky reefs from Baja to Central California, spending the day wedged so deep into holes that only the tips of their antennae give them away. But at night, these things turn into roaming predators, crawling out to hunt, explore, and feed under the cover of darkness. A big spiny lobster can push over 10 pounds on the upside, and they're incredibly strong. If you try to grab one wrong, they'll kick their tail so fast they can literally launch themselves out of your hands. Their antennas aren't just for show though. They're packed with nerves that detect vibrations, movement, and danger. Get too close and they'll snap them at you like whips, warning you that this is their rock, not yours. They grow by molting, shedding their entire shell like a suit of armor. And when they do, they're soft, vulnerable, and hidden away until the new shell hardens. Finding molts on the sand is one of the best signs that lobsters are active in the area. And here's the crazy part. California spiny lobsters can live for more than 50 years. They survive storms, predators, and decades of divers trying to snatch them off the reef. Down here in Catalina, the shallow grass beds look calm from the surface, but the moment you drop in, it's an entire hidden world. Every blade of grass has something living on it. Juvenile fish, tiny crabs, nudibranches, little creatures you never notice unless you're inches off the bottom. This is the perfect place for animals to hide, hunt, or wait out the daylight. And at night, we'll even find lobster walking around in there. We were drifting through the grass, just scanning, looking for anything that might give us a clue about what species are active and what predators might be cruising throughout later at the night. And that's when we saw it. Over in the sand area next to this, we found a shovel-nosed guitarfish. These things look like a shark and a stingray had a secret meeting. Perfectly camouflaged, half buried in the sand, waiting for the current to bring food right to it. They have a shark-like tail, but a wide flattened head like a ray. They're harmless, super chill, and ridiculously fast when they decide they don't want to be seen. They blend into the ocean floor so well that you usually don't notice them until you're right on top of one. Moments like this are why Catalina feels alive. You think you're just drifting over the sand, but the ocean always has surprises hidden underneath. Not long after, tucked between the rocks nearby, we found another local, the horn shark. Horn sharks are slow, almost shy, but they come armed. Those two dorsal spines, super sharp. You never grab them anywhere near the back or you'll be learning a very painful lesson. They spend the whole day jammed into cracks and caves, the same places lobsters hide. They're gentle, they're peaceful, but don't surprise one with your hand in a dark hole like I did. And if you think this one was cool, wait until you see the massive horn shark we found later that night. Trust me, that one was a whole different experience. Then we got suited back up and got ready to go back out at night. What I was doing here is placing the little lantern, $10 Cabela lantern, on our wagon. That way we could easily find our spot on the beach. Although it was about half moon and we could still have a lot of visibility out there. You can't really tell from the GoPro, and it wouldn't be too hard to figure our way back. It's just left side of the cliff versus the right until we hit the beach. And then we have a small little source light right there on that clip as well, so we can find our float at night and not end up lost at sea. So we start dragging this on out. We have our 2 lobster bags, spear gun just in case we end up seeing anything, which was good because we did end up finding a halibut there shortly after, right here in the sandy area. Today we stumbled on one of Catalina's coolest little surprises. I believe this was a bright yellow California 2-spot octopus, or otherwise known as the common octopus. At first it looked like just another rock tucked between the kelp. I saw a little bit of purple, but then it shifted colors and those tiny blue rings flashed. These octopus are masters of camouflage, changing shades in seconds to blend with anything around them. It was super awesome to be able to catch one in the wild. Let him go, and he inked away. Next up, you can watch one of my fails. I'm using 2 lights at this point because it's absolutely pitch black. But the problem is I only have 2 hands, so I drop those, try to use the leftover light in my right hand, grab the lobster, and he slips out. They're super fast when they kick their tail like we were mentioning earlier, and they can cover 10, 15 feet, which might not seem like much in the middle of the night, but you definitely will have a hard time finding them again. So I go on, keep on searching for them for a minute, and I give up after about 30 or 40 seconds.
And this is what we call the ocean's dog. It just has these little suckers down here, tiny teeth, nothing that can hurt you too bad. We're going to give him one pet, and we're going to send him on his way. Come on there, little guy.
And if that wasn't enough species for the day and night, we also came across a little stingray floating around. Super beautiful, pretty small as far as they go. And he was just cruising around, probably looking for a midnight snack. I was hoping to find some lobster in this hole, but instead, I just ended up finding a whole family of fish that were trying to hang out. Oh, wait, I guess I did find one. Let's see if we can get him. He didn't manage to kick away, and so that guy ended up bringing over and picking him in the bag. And this was the halibut that we had found earlier on in the night. We took one clean shot behind his head, didn't get a stone shot, so he was kicking around a lot. Even though this one was on the smaller end, he was still super powerful. And it was super awesome to be able to find him because we've been looking for halibut over in Monterey and Pacifica quite a bit. I kept on looking at this guy with my flashlight because I have my measurement device over on the float. So I'm kind of just trying to gauge whether or not they're hitting that 3¼ inches, 3½ inches or so. And then taking a measurement once I get back over to the float. That little light was good enough to be able to see the float from about like 30 yards maybe, but any further than that and it pretty much went back to looking like it was just pitch black over there. So the reason we ended up losing one member of our 3-man crew out here at night was because I had been pushing the float, following Kyle and Artem around for a while. Artem had said he was going to go back and grab the float after I had left it around one of these bends, and he wasn't able to find us when he came back, and so he ended up going back to camp. Everybody was super worried about us, and within 10-15 minutes, in Artem fashion, he hopped on his paddleboard and came looking for us and found us pretty quickly because we weren't too far. I believe he had kind of missed us when he was looking for us earlier because me and Kyle had ended up peeking in one of these little caves for about 10 minutes, so he might not have seen our lights there. But thankfully he was able to find us and they didn't end up calling the Coast Guard or anything like that. And one of the things I found super difficult was trying to put these lobster in the bag after we already had about 4 or 5 of them. Kyle had a bag on his waist, and because we had the float pretty far away now, because Artem had brought it to the beach earlier when he went back, we were shoving these in there, and one would pop out as we would put it in. We would put in another one would pop out. We were almost coming out to essentially a sum-zero game at one point after we had just about our limit of lobsters in there for the night. But we kept on looking for any monsters we could find because we were having a super fun time. And right here, you can see about 10-15 feet down, we have one right there. What I'm trying to do is sneak up behind those antennas, because if you touch them, they'll take off like that. And this is where you're going to see another one of my fails. And I try to grab them. I managed to get them there, but there was another 4 or 5 times where I had them running around, zipping around me in circles, and I just wasn't able to get a hold of them. And this here is when Kyle was having that same problem as he was trying to learn how to grab the lobsters. So if you don't grab them from right behind on their body, if you try to grab them from the tail or the antennas will rip off, similar to how a lizard's tail will fall off or a crab's claw can fall off and regrow as a sort of defense mechanism. So here we were chasing this guy around for a while. I was waiting, trying to spot him for Kyle, and just wanted to make sure we weren't going to miss him, so I ended up going back into this cave a little bit and grabbing him off the wall there because Kyle was done with his breath hold. And once your light turns off or it's away from that lobster, when you go to take your breath, you're probably not going to be able to find him again, or they're going to be super deep in the hole. As I was looking around, I came up to one of these ledges and I saw this guy here. Had my light right on him, nice and bright, and I got a little bit too quick with it, and he was gone. He had quite a bit of distance covered on me, probably 20 or 30 feet right there, as you can see, and there's no way we were getting him. Now, this is where we were right in front of that cave. He was trying to grab a lobster there, and as we looked into the back of the cave, and you could see there, he grabbed that antenna and that popped off like I was talking about. As we started making our way closer to this cave, we could see the swell was filling up about half of it all the way to the ceiling. And so right there, it's pretty much full. We're getting kind of smacked against the top sometimes. I was about to pull him back as he got in there a little bit too close, but that's when I saw there's like 50 lobster back there. I got super excited. So I kind of just sat there. I measured, basically counting in my head the amount of time it took for the swell to come in and out, figured out how far I could go back in my head, and started picking up 1 or 2 lobster. The problem is this cave just keeps on going and going, and that last 30 or 40 feet or so, half the time you can breathe and half the time you can't. So you see me kind of sitting here contemplating exactly how many of these lobster I want to go after and what the risk versus reward is. That's when I noticed that this guy is basically making a full sprint towards the light. I don't know if he thinks it's the moon or if it's confusing him or what. He's just curious, but he really is making his way on over here. Whereas most of the other ones, they would take off. It's kind of like playing with a cat that has like 10 legs or however many legs they have. So I go ahead, start picking these guys up. It's a pretty smooth wall all the way along the edges there, so I'm not too worried about getting tangled on anything. It's mostly about your breath hold and how long you think you can stay inside that little tunnel there and have enough time to still make your way back, calculating for, you know, the swell and the water kind of having that suction effect that it'll have inside the cave as it pulls back there. So I started making my way back towards Kyle, put this one in the bag. We grab a couple more, and then we end up continuing our way around the corner there.
Woo! What we got ourselves here is one of the dogs of the sea. He's got a nice shell. There's going to be a lot of meat for the family tonight. Over 100 legs. Big boy.
Joking about the legs there, but this was another one where I'm coming down, I end up seeing him against the wall, I try to grab him, and boom, he takes off underneath this ledge here, where if they do take off, you're gonna want to look around the nearby ledges because they usually went to the nearest hole that they could find. Fish, they might keep on swimming for a mile away. If they're a big fish, they might try to find a hole nearby, but these lobsters, they pretty much always know that they got some sort of home nearby, and they're kind of just trying to squeeze into any crack they can as they're kicking backwards. How they're so good at it and so agile, I don't know. But there were some of these crevices here. Now, I heard over at the break wall, and it's the same thing here, that there's these deep crevices. You'll see a ton of those lobster in there, and they are plentiful. There's some big ones, but for me, just not really worth the risk. So I just kind of continued on finding those big boys that were walking around in the grass in the middle of the night, which is one of the perks of going at night. Last video you saw there was one of these kind of spiky fish. I want to say it was a cabrillo mole from the fish species that I was looking up on Google, but if you know better, drop it down in the comments. After that, we brought our stuff back out. Super tired, got out of the wetsuits. It was about 50 degrees, maybe high 40s, depending what time it was there. And we started dumping the lobsters out. What you have to do is you have to either take off the antennas and stick that up their rear, and that's going to be how you're going to be able to kind of de-poop them, or you're going to have to buy some sort of tool to do that. So we kind of counted them up, took some pictures, started making sure to dispatch them right through the head there, dropping it down the front. And then what you do to take their tails off is you squeeze them towards each other from the long end towards the middle of the abdomen. And you want to make sure you have gloves on, otherwise this is going to hurt. And you want to have thick gloves, because I was getting poked a little bit. And you're just going to do one big twist, and you're going to get these off there so that you can break them open and have some dinner that night. I did get a video of me catching the biggest one, but it was only his antlers because my GoPro's on top of my head and it was tilted too far up. So I'm just going to put a couple pictures of that guy here for size reference, and thank you for watching.